Okay, friends, we're going to start. The best part about this workshop is that after it, we eat lunch. So this is positive. So we just have to hang tight here for a few minutes. I'm not sure what lunch is, but if it's anything like those snacks, we're in a good place. So great session this morning. Wow, good worship. We taught on the subject of creating values. I'm not sure how much work you've done personally on exploring the whole subject of values. For some, this might be new thinking. For others, it's maybe reminders. But if you were to come to a workshop, what do you think we're going to talk about? If we're talking about this subject here, having a value-driven ministry, what are some things you think we need to hit? What's your thoughts? How to create them. Okay, that's good. Where to find them, where to create them. Okay. What else? Excuse me? The big goal? Okay, yeah, what's the big goal? Yeah, what are we placing value on in terms of the big goal? That's great, yeah. A couple more? Come on in, friends.
How it's used to create church culture.
How values are used to create church culture. Okay, this is tapping into something very strategic. Yeah. One more.
Why we do what we do.
Why do we do what we do? Yeah, we're going to eventually consider why we do what we do. I don't know if you can hear this. You don't really need to hear it. It's more about seeing. But let's just kind of begin with this value. There you go. There's a whole lot of values being shown in that video, right? Two thoughts, and we got about maybe 15 minutes for each of these thoughts. The first thought is, before you can lead a value-centered ministry, you have to have a value-centered life. And I mean, this conversation, we could talk for hours and hours, and we don't have hours, but allow me just to sow some seeds, which I kind of think, if we are to complete the conversation, you're going to have to do it on your own. So let me kind of just create a framework a little bit for some personal work. It would be an interesting exercise to ask you what you believe are your personal values. And again, it was said, where do our personal values come from? So again, just reminding you, we're going to talk about your personal values, and then we're going to translate into how do we lead a value-centered life, because you can't really separate the two. Our values come from our life experiences. And a lot of times, those life experiences, of course, begin in our childhood. And over the course of all of our past, our experiences are shaping us in ways that bring us to places of having convictions and passions. In other words, quite possibly your values are directly related to your life story and your unique personality. We see that in Jeremiah chapter 1, where it was mentioned even in our plenary session, before I formed you in the womb I knew you, and I set you apart and I appointed you. So we all have a past, and it's not a counseling session, but our past has shaped us tremendously. And a very healthy exercise, I think, even as someone is preparing for marriage, and as someone is preparing for to be parents, and as we move along, it's important to go back to see how we have been shaped by our past experiences. It creates our life story. So values are shaped in two ways. Number one, they're shaped by characteristics, which we all have, of course, which are very, very different, and the external influences related to our past. So we've got, this God's design, and then a life story design. And we need to pay attention to both of those. My family, there you go, snowshoeing, Seymour. Fun, very fun. Julie and I have done a lot of work in articulating values. And again, why? So we have here a list, so just not to make it about us, but mine are on the left and Julie's are on the right. And the reason I show you that, because there's a tremendous need for us to articulate the things that are of ultimately greatest priority within our lives. If you're frustrated in an ongoing situation, there's a good chance it's because there's a conflict of values, right? So again, related to the past on my left, self-expression is a value. I recently did what I am suggesting you do. I personally prepared my testimony, and I did it through the lens of articulating, I wonder where my values have come from. And so self-expression, I grew up in a pastor's home, and my mom had an undiagnosed case of depression. I grew up in that home. The home that I grew up in was my father pastored. He was paid very, very poorly in the north end of the city. So we were in a very poor neighborhood, and my mom had an undiagnosed case of depression. So we were poor and we were sad. We were sad. Sympathy. This is an intervention meeting for me right now. I'm going to lie on the table. Please speak words of life. But that shaped me, right? My personality. So now, what has risen strongly in my heart is the need for self-expression related to identity and the healing that's come. Leadership. My father struggled with leadership. He was a good pastor. He was an awesome man. Died 4 years ago. One of the most meek men. And I watched him kind of struggle with the expression of leadership and the serve up, wanting to see that change and wanting to see some life brought into that situation. And of course, as a young kid, you're just living the life. And I grew up with parents who had high integrity values, like cross the T's and dot the I's. My mom recently paid me back for something. And she actually had the receipt, and she actually gave me pennies. She goes, here you go, across it, going, really? Like, Mom, really? You're paying me back? And because it's, I owe you $12.43. There you go. And just these strong threads of, integrity. Competition. We grew up as a family playing games. All kinds of games. Games. And my father would show up at the table with this attitude. So it sounds like I'm ragging on my father. I love this guy. Awesome man. Maybe it sounds opposite. But to find out where values come from. So my mom, very, very competitive. Always wanting to win. Right? And my dad, it doesn't matter. And so we got this contrast. So I grew up with that. Does it matter or doesn't it matter? And I've landed on the side of it matters. It matters. You will win. We have to win. And then it doesn't matter how, but in the moment, there's a competition. And of course, productivity. When it comes to, again, kind of childhood stuff. My father and my mom sorting out what it means to be faithful and fruitful in ministry and watching the tension that lived and trying to find fulfillment. And so productivity now is a strong value within me. My wife, Paget, Nicole knows that family, they're funny people. Like they laugh and tease and joke, and it's like, so here me coming from, the side of the table is very serious, landing into a family where you're teased and joke. She has humor as a value because she grew up with that. Family. She grew up in a town in Ontario where her great-grandparents lived and her grandparents and all of her 30 cousins and all that. So family is a huge value for her. Truth. I'm not sure where that came from. Serving. I don't know. don't have a story on that one, just to be honest. And serving, it's just her desire. It's a gift that she has. I think it comes from the Lord, this ability, desire to serve, and integrity related to truth and just honor. Her father was a politician, and he was 26-year municipal politics. And during she saw the best of honor, and then she saw times when there was lack of honor. So, in the public life of politics. So honor is a huge value, and whenever she senses in any way just this thought of someone's not being honored, something rises up, right, within her. You have a story. So I tried to do that in about 3 minutes, but you have a story that you need to explore. And your friends and your spouses, and as you parent children, they are growing up and finding impressions. And I encourage you to do the hard work of exploring personal values. There's lots of online tools, and I think it's very, very important. Once you understand your personal values, you can lead a more authentic and influential life. This is huge. What does it mean to have values? It means to know and have an articulation in your mind for you to live a life when you're fully at the table. So the coaching work that I've done to surface those values was done with a coach, and the language that we used was, what does it mean for me, Dave, to be fully engaged, completely at the table? Like you're at the table. And you're leaning in with all of who you are. Values draw us to people and draw us away from people. Do you ever notice that? Do you ever know why there's times when I like that person, right? You have these, and then there's just something you go, there's something with that person, I don't connect with that person. A lot of times it's because of values. You're drawn in because you appreciate their inerrant value system. Values determines the value of what we place on things and how we form relationships. It creates our likes and our dislikes. It helps us articulate our signature strengths. And then it helps us identify the difference between in ministry when we're serving out of our core of who we are, or we're serving from a place of chore. And there's big differences. So when we're thinking about values, we're thinking about something internal that has external expression. So again, whether or not you've articulated this, you are living out according to a value system all the time. Agree or disagree? Agree? Anybody done any work on values? What, can I put both of you on the spot? Can't put you on the spot. Value is privacy, right here. Can you articulate some of your values? Have you done that work?
Yeah. Gosh, no.
Everybody always shares values with smiles on their faces, just like you're doing right there.
Thoughtfulness.
Okay, thoughtfulness.
Gosh, drawing a blank on my values.
That's good, but thoughtfulness, yeah.
I think the one was about relationship.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Yeah, no, it's good. Fine, that's good. Good work. Recently, this is a tree that came down last year during a windstorm. And I had to take a picture of it because I was so surprised it fell over. Like, I walk by that's a path where I walk our dog. And I liked the tree. And it was always healthy to me. And I just liked it. And then one day when I came home, I was away and I came back, and there was a big storm. And Julie said, hey, there's a couple trees down on the path. And I went over and I was so sad that this tree had, and not all the other trees, right, but this tree. Why did this tree not make it through the storm? We could talk forever about it, but one of the reasons is because its core had some compromise in it. Like it wasn't able to, like there's trees all around that, but that one didn't make it. And I think we need to pay a lot of attention to the core of who we are. They're called core strengths, and I want to encourage you to get very good at naming your strengths. And again, that needs to be understood in a context, right? Because if we go around, posturing, bragging, arrogant, that's not the spirit here. But when it refers to values and the expression of values, you and I need to get very good at naming our strengths. And paying close attention to your feelings before and after activities helps us possibly identify a little bit more of the core of who we are. I trust that after times of ministry, there's physical fatigue, but I hope there's spiritual revival and renewal, right? Because you can be physically tired if you're doing the work, productivity, but if you're spiritually tired, or there's a good chance that there's something off internally as it relates possibly to values or core. Asking questions, that's helpful phrases. I am at my best when. I really encourage you to do that work, especially kind of maybe those little, maybe kind of younger, few years of ministry, or I feel strong when. And you and I need to get to those places when we are at our best and we are feeling strong, right? Again, paying close attention to your feelings before and after activities is huge. Getting good at naming your strengths. Aware of personal values provides clarity, helps us make intelligent decisions, it helps us find balance in life, creates health and wholeness. And some work has been done to suggest that in ministry or in life, we need to try to find a way of serving in 80% core and 20% chore. So again, core is related to value, context, primary giftings, serving in primary ministry roles. So moving quickly, slightly out of the core conversation to the primary gifting conversation, we should be creating space and place and encouragement that our primary ministries are being served with our primary giftings. 80% core and 20% chore. So discovering primary giftings, which is a little bit of a sidebar to this, but yet important, is discovering spiritual gifts, spiritual talent, spiritual gifts, and moving in that direction. Certainly over time, that we would be sitting at a table with articulated values and serving in our primary ministries and with our primary giftings. So it cores our natural talents, spiritual gifts, personality, strengths, and passions, which bring delight. Chore, possibly, so we're creating some generalizations here, but chore are learned skills, ministry duties, that's a repeat, sorry, and it drains us. Duty. So the goal, possibly to shoot for over time to find healthy rhythm, is 80% core and 20% chore. And I would recommend that giving a lot of personal attention to the self-leadership of this journey is important. If we're expecting, supervisors or our direct reports or our pastors to be front-ending this, you'll probably end up slightly disappointed. The best leadership is self-leadership, articulating values, articulating primary giftings, and then seeking to align that in an 80-20% ratio. Any questions about that or comments?
So if 80-20 is where we should be or could be, what are most people at?
I don't know. What do you think? So did you hear this? So the question was, if we're aiming for 80-20, what are most people at? What do you think? Let's open that up. Why don't you start? What do you think, Nicole? What would you guess?
I think a lot of times we try and do it ourselves without thinking. But yet even though we're working, I don't know, like, would it be more 50-50?
Yeah. So it's kind of maybe saying 50-50. Anybody want to, what do you think?
I think it would depend on your personality.
Okay. Depends on your personality. Yeah.
Some people want people pleasers and, they can kind of be pushed around, if you want to use that terminology, and so they might struggle.
Yeah.
And have more chore be the higher ratio, whereas if you're more a leader,
Correct.
spoken, you might tend to lean the other way.
Did you hear that? It's kind of saying, based on personality, there are people that have a personality or kind of a pleasing personality and more of a follower than a leader. And so perhaps those who are kind of the followers, people pleasing type would struggle a little more than the leader type. The more self-directed. Okay. Okay. You're being challenged right now. Come stand right up here and face your accuser. Okay, so just explain, yeah. We're probably all right here. So what are you thinking? So you're saying...
I was thinking that a person who has a personality that wants to please enjoys
Yeah.
pleasing others.
Sure.
Enjoy
Could be a value.
And as a leader, you might look on that and think, ugh, but
Yeah.
they're enjoying.
Very.
Okay, but
Oops.
sorry. I'm thinking how many times I just lean on, oh yeah, I can do that, and I'm not leaning enough on the Lord on the core side. So even though I'm doing it in my own strength, it's becoming a chore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would think then it would be more the opposite.
Yeah.
It depends how much freedom you feel in
Okay.
your job and in your life situation, right? I mean, some people aren't very academic.
Can you guys hear this? Just so we don't have to... Okay, good, sorry.
Some people aren't very academically inclined, but they want to get a bachelor's degree so they can do ministry. So it's a lot of chore to get through school so they can serve in their core, right? So it depends on where you're at in your life.
Correct? Yeah, correct? Yeah. That's good. Yeah, and then there, yeah.
Also, from a volunteer perspective, if you've got a pastor that's got 3 children and they kind of, because they're the pastor, they throw their children into ministry, sometimes the kids don't necessarily want to be there.
Okay.
It can be a high chore.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah. Okay. You want to see it? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like partly where I'm looking is that natural talent aspect there. That what was said before, that you can, if you're using those natural talents by your own scheme, you're the one that's doing these things. Those will quickly, I feel like, become those chores, or at least not be fulfilled to their ability to the fullest, as though rather than if you were actually looking to the Lord and saying, use my natural talents in the way that you want to. I feel like a lot of the time with my own natural talents, I go, I've got this. Like, I'm good at this, I can do this. And so that, I feel like I kind of fall into that trap of self.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Good comment. Yeah. I think we're all guilty. Mic drop. Bow down. Yeah. I mean, that's so true, right? Just the rhythm of expertise and, yeah. Paul.
I think a lot of it is based off of our ability to rest, and our ability to just kind of get out of the way, because true giftedness comes out of a place of rest and not of toil, and that's when that becomes sweet. But really, like, anything can come out of your core. If you're in a place where you're truly with God, and you're in a place where you're listening to Him, because He's able to do it, and so do you.
Good word. Invitation.
I was going to say, I think it can sometimes be seasonal with your church and in your
very good. Good word. That's a mature leader speaking there of a reality, right? That's where the rubber meets the road. Good word. Very good. Yep. Yep.
Okay. I think part of it is also your ability to say yes or no to yourself.
Okay.
To know where your boundaries lie. How well do I know myself? Because you could think you're a terrible administrator and you've just never gotten into it. And until you do some chore in it, you realize that God equips those who are called. He doesn't call those who are equipped.
Yeah, good.
Right? He'll awaken things in you as you go through the chore, so you grow as a person.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
As you, so we're going to switch into this now. So pay attention to your personal values, because your personal values, certainly in leadership, create influence, possibly, or create atmosphere. Maybe I'll just use the word atmosphere. So when we're kind of 15 minutes left here, so we're switching now to conversation related to organization and values. So what is someone said it earlier, values shape culture within a group. So kind of switching some languages here. So values, which we'll come back to, but values create a culture. And culture of a ministry, culture of a classroom, culture of an event, culture of a district, culture of a church. It's maybe these are some of the kind of bullet points for this. You can talk about this for hours, but it's the personality of an organization. It's reinforced continually by traditions and language. It's the most powerful factor in any organization is its culture. It's usually unnoticed on leadership, and it most often surfaces if little work is done on this. It's addressed only in the midst of negative experiences. So if you're in a place of positional leadership and serving, I encourage you to do a little bit of the work, and if you're in a subordinate role or to begin to encourage the articulation and conversation related to what is it really, what is the culture that actually exists. And those are some interesting conversations. Christian leaders who understand the value of shaping their culture and molding the individual substance of core values discover the byproduct of fruitfulness, health, and strength. To shape like clay the atmosphere, attitudes, actions, and natural responses of your group or your church will require greater intentionality on your part and a greater attention to details. So where do we begin the conversation? We look to attributes of character, that's character issues, conduct issues, and conversations. So these are good places to do some detective work when starting. What's the character like of this group? What's the character celebrated? What's the conduct? What do we act like as a group, as a church? And what are we talking about? These are three good places to do some investigation work to begin to understand a little bit about values and how those values and priorities are shaping behavior and what we're calling here today culture. It can lead to greater influence, more resource, and additional leaders. Values are not vision statements. They're not strategies. They're not doctrinal statements. Values are constant, sacred, create passion. They're related to core beliefs, and they drive the vision and ministry. Values drive the vision and ministry. In the same way, in our personal values, which drive us in terms of priorities, in terms of things we struggle with and battle for and defend and fight for, in the same way as groups, we need to be constantly fighting, if you would, over the expression of values. And yeah, if you're going to fight, if you're going to debate, if you're going to wrestle, if you're going to get bugged, that's huge. Because offenses happen because of a disagreement with a primary value. So let's not tweak relationships. Let's dig holes and build foundations on articulated values. Again, values are constant. They're sacred, not spiritually, but they're sacred to us. They create passion, they establish core beliefs, and they drive ministry. They help with decision making, goal setting, conflict resolution, ministry satisfaction, ministry commitment, and problem solving. Organizations need a value review when there is frequent confusion and disagreement. That happens in our churches. These kind of toxic environments. And it's over time, there's negative effects. And when you think about how unusually crazy it is to think of churches coming together, right? All these families, so starting with all these people who have values, and all these families that have values coming together to form a Christian family. People don't leave their values at the door when they come to church, right? You didn't leave your values at the door when you came here. You are filtering everything I'm saying through your value system, whether you know it or not, right? You are. I was in a meeting yesterday, and I was laying out some conversation related to church planting, and I thought everything was fine in the room, and I said, anybody have anything to say? And some guy stood up, and he was angry. Like, what was that? I offended a value of his. I like him. We're friends. But he talked like he was my enemy. He's like, looked like, I'm glad there was people between us, because I thought he was going to like jump on me. Like there was tables between us. I was thankful for that. And it's like, wow. Like, it's so funny. Have you ever been in that situation? Like, you're kind of dancing along, things are fine, everybody's laughing, and all of a sudden, any comments, yeah, I got something to say. What you just said makes me very nervous, and went on and on and on and on. I go, wow. What was that? It's values, right? It's values. Personalities, we're friends. I struck a chord against his personal values. And he doesn't even know it, I don't think, because he hasn't processed it. That I'm struck a chord, and it created confusion in him and disagreement, right? Overt cynicism and pessimism, that was kind of him too. It leads to a maintenance ministry, because we're a group of people that are just trying to get along. Just trying to get along, be at peace with each other. On your leadership teams, if there is not a tension related to conflict and debate and struggle, then you got some work to do. The people that I work closest with, we wrestle with tensions and conflict and disagreements in a healthy way, because we're trying to sort out a values-based ministry. Low declining attendance, a lack of commitment enthusiasm, low tolerance of change, and distrust of leadership. So trust is earned when people can gather around shared values. It's huge. Trust is earned when people can gather around shared values. And then again, in places of leadership, where regardless of the role on the team that you're presently serving on, this work has to get done. As a district team at our office, these are our 5 values right here. So we had a retreat 2 years ago, and we spent 2 days trying to sort out what is it that's very, very important to us. And this is what we came up with. So hopefully, when you start sharing your values, you become subject to criticism and evaluation. But hopefully, when you're interacting certainly with our core district team, hopefully you're going to see there is a value of honor. I don't know if you sense honor here. I did. I walked in and someone held up a card and said, "You're good looking." I said, "Okay, let's live life together," because they're going to like, "Wow, okay." And then some guy popped around the corner and said, "I'm really glad you're here." Going, "Okay, I'm in the right place. Come with me. Let's live life together." But honor, okay? Serving. Our district team exists to serve people. We don't exist to be served. We exist to serve. There's a big difference, right? Big difference. Here to serve. Creative planning and critical review. So, for example, this event has been planned for a long time, creatively, and after you give in all of your feedback, there's going to be days of critical review. Like going over it all. I always get nervous when workshops get reviewed. Say good things, okay? Say really good things. Honor me, okay? Serve me well. Say that was a great workshop. I always get nervous when I see them. Oh, 2 out of 5. Gosh, who is that person? But critical review. Critical review, okay? Not to stroke egos, but critical review. Fun. That's a value. Nicole used to work at this job. I don't know how fun it was for you. But we're working on this. But if you come and kind of walk around, you're going to, hopefully it's going to be fun. We have this little thing, it's called mini golf. Don't tell anybody. Oh, I just told people. Oops. But anyways, upstairs if you come, when things get stressed, a few of us go mini putting upstairs. And we set up this little course. And we just say, we just need to have fun because this is really a drag right now. And integrity, a value of integrity. So your team has values, so admit it. And sometimes team values need to have scriptural realignment, and churches and youth ministries as well. Any questions about this? Yeah, it's good.
How do you take a team with people of lots of different values?
Yep. Yeah.
Are you asking people to kind of change their personal values, or are you trying to fit in with a little bit of everybody's personal values?
Yep, great question. All I know is what we've done. So that's just like, and there's other ways to do it. You can find, to get you started in it, I mean, Google knows everything. You can just type in personal values, and you can find lists of probably 70 or 80 values. And they're all good. So you bring a sheet like that, or create your own, and you kind of put that sheet on a table. That's what we did. And we gave that sheet out, and we said, of that list, we want you to take that list of 70, and we want you to highlight the 10 most important things to you on that sheet. So we did. So all of a sudden, we have 12, so all of a sudden we have potentially, so we're all doing that together. And then from there we said, okay, from that 10, so get rid of the 70, now we got 10. From that 10, now choose 5 from the 10. All right, so from 80 down to 10, down to 5. And then we took the 5 and we put the 5 on a whiteboard. Notice, and we noted differences. And so from there, we asked people to go into groups and discuss what they meant by, why is that important? So we let people speak to why integrity is important to you. So we got people to begin to describe what it means to act out a life as a team member with integrity. And then from there, we put those up with definition. And we noted how many people had chosen integrity and how many people had noticed whatever. And then from there, we had, I think I went down to 10. And then from there, we took a smaller group to kind of do the exercise sketch to see if we can combine some words. And we came up with that. So are we leaving our personal values at the door to form team values? Yes and no. Like, I can get behind those as a team. So I can try to do that and express that. So that was one way that we did it. Another way to explore it is this here. So what's most important, or if you're working on a group and you're trying to work it as a group in terms of group values, you can ask this question. What reputation is important to you outside this room? And as you begin to explore that question, you begin to find out what's important to people. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah, Mike.
We've got a list of values for our organization, and it's been determined kind of from the leadership, communicated to the staff and volunteers. But what I'm wondering is, how can we make sure that that goes from just being a document that we've agreed on at the board level to making sure that that actually is part of the life of the ministry, and that what we do aligns with that for real. That's not just on paper.
Yeah. Let's we got a couple minutes left. Let's discuss this together. Okay. Let's get creative. Let's try to find a list of 5 or 7 things. You might have some, but we won't ask. We'll ask you last. Okay, Mike. So what are some? Let's help. Okay, Metro kids right now. Let's help. Okay. So they've got a list. Yeah.
You have buy-in from the people that are going to be in it. So the person who is able to implement that, were they part of the decision-making process? And if not, then you have to kind of include them or make them feel like, you know, their opinion is heard as well, right? Because it's really hard if you have the top up telling the bottom what to do, and if you don't buy in, it's not going to.
So the first, and if they came from top down, then you might need to start over again, and just kind of start the whole conversation over again, right? Okay, so that's good. Where'd they come from? What else? What else would you suggest?
You gotta know it, so it's gotta be either preached, it's gotta be on the walls of the church, it's gotta have impact for people to understand that, you know, fun is part of what we're doing, or serving is what we're doing and why.
Yeah, so they gotta be in front of people, either visually like that. So some of the team have this as their screensaver, and it's printed in certain places, so it's kind of reference point, and then it's got to be referred to. So we're doing this. So we went. Were you there for that? We went bowling. Yeah. So we said, you know what? One of our values is fun, so we're going to take an hour and go bowling. That wasn't fun at all. But the ice cream after was fun. That was actually a terrible day. Maybe that was about, I don't know what that was. That's the competitive thing showing up. I must have lost.
I'm pretty sure I was on the winning team. Yes.
Yes, you were. That's right. I remember our team coming second. That's why I hated the day. Anyways, Kim?
Sort of what Nicole was saying, but just that sense of making it a part of regular language. That we talk about fun, we use the word honor and serving, and it's very clear what our values are, even if they're not on the wall, but just by the words that we say.
Yep. Catching people expressing those is huge, right? So negative reinforcement, positive reinforcement. Catch people doing those or whatever yours are, and celebrate with them. A thing that I used to do, still try to do, especially now that we have cell phones. Whenever I'm leaving a meeting on my way home, I try to call people that I've seen in action and affirm them, right? So I'll try to do that today. I'll try to, on my way home today, I'll just try to, as I leave, kind of pick out some people, and I'll try to contact them and say, hey, that was just awesome. What you did was just awesome, and I just want to thank you, right? It's a culture of honor, and it reinforces values. So, again, catch people doing good, and name it. Put the words on it. I noticed that you honored those people today, and that was awesome. Click, right? Remember that guy in the interview says it takes 5 minutes to change a life? You can also do it in 50 seconds. Right? Save yourself more time. Right? More productivity. Yeah. Couple more?
I was going to say language as well, just it being a constant. We're all about generosity, and the whole team using the same language.
Yeah. Yeah, get some language going. And then, but keep changing your language because words get burnt over so quickly. So you got to keep like saying the same thing but in different ways because language is huge. Especially in church circles, we're so blah with language, right? Yep. You gonna say something? No? Oops.
I was going to say, you have to ensure that from the get-go, your values have to be your values. They can't be priority set because of what the church down the street is doing or because, this big organization that had success in this area and this is what we're hearing, this is what kind of the go-to thing is right now or what's popular or whatever. Your values really have to be your personal values as a congregation and as a leadership team. And then from that, everything you do, even from the outset, from planning, everything has to be reflected in everything you plan. So instead of just planning, oh, this is a good idea, you say, well, how does this reflect our values? How do our values get played out in this program, in this activity, in this funding? How does this communicate our values and how does it reinforce that in our congregation?
One of the things, that's excellent. And everybody here has, there's various roles on teams here. So primary leaders have roles, and then secondary leaders or team players. One of the things that everybody can always do is ask clarifying questions. That's the greatest gift. I mean, she said that this morning, right? About questions. Be like Jesus, ask questions. But when it relates to this is huge. So whether you can actually walk out a team to articulate, because maybe that is not related to your role, you can influence this continually by asking clarifying questions. How does what we are doing there, how does that reflect that? Or why are we doing that when we could do that? And you know what? The people that ask clarifying questions have tremendous influence. So you can influence a values-based ministry even without a primary leadership role of authority. Right on. This has been great. Good yeah, one more.
I want to say how important clarifying questions are. I've worked at the preschool program and I have several people working under me as well. But I do the main teaching because sometimes if someone's away, it's easier for me to step in and cover somebody. But everything always went pretty smoothly. We didn't have much influence by the board about what was going on until a problem occurred, which was a simple enough one to handle, but everybody went about and kind of did it their own way without really talking about what it was. And it was as simple as we have an age 3 to 5-year-olds for our preschool program. But the year before, someone had managed to, they had 2 children that were similar in age, but one was still 2, and got snuck into the program, and there was nobody really that said no, they just let it happen. Well then, of course, then this year, someone tried to do the same thing, and I caught it at that point, said, well no, they really have to be 3. And so then that person was really quite angry because, well, it happened, someone else was allowed to do it,
Right.
And if that had been dealt with, back when, and just instead of just letting it slide.
Yeah.
But we don't always want to deal with those hard questions.
Yeah.
When they first come up, but
Yeah.
it can get out of hand very easily.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. That's right. Good illustration. Well, thank you very much for coming to this workshop. And